we also offer Masters in Drawing and Painting with a duration of 2 years. Apart from certificate programs, degree, masters, we also offer PhD programs in performing and visual art with a specialization of visual arts, music, dance and theatre. Art is the perfect manifestation of every human being. So what you are waiting for? For online admissions, please visit our website www.ignou.ac.in. For more details, you can also contact Director, School of Performing and Visual Art, Block number 15G, IGNOU, Maidan Gadi, New Delhi. You can also reach us at sopva@ignou.ac.in. Happy learning!
आश्रम के चूहे पकड़े। तुम तो सचमुच राधा लगने लगी।
पता नहीं ये राजयोग कब तक रहेगा।
तो हमारी माया के लिए सुरक्षित है।
Welcome to all. Classrooms are the place where there is interaction between the learners and learner and teacher and the learners. And in this interaction, to make it more effective, what is important, that is the use of different audio-visual aids. And in this context, I would like to discuss on the topic Cone of Experience, which is related to the course MAAE 001 of Master of Arts in Adult Education program. When we think of this cone of experience, before entering into the discussion of cone of experience, I would like to specify what are the learning objectives of today's session. The first objective is to define the term cone of experience, to classify the different medias or medium that is included in the cone of experience, and to develop understanding about the benefits of cone of experience. Regarding to the cone of experience, two questions are important. The first one, how can teacher use audio-visual materials to promote learning that persists? Number two, how can audiovisual materials enable students to enjoy learning through vicarious experience? So here, what is important? Learning, it is a process which leads to the modification of behavior on the part of the learners. And learning, when it takes place, it is not just for the imminent purpose, it is for retaining the knowledge. And in the case of retaining the knowledge, how we can use the audio visual materials, that is an important thing. And this audio visual materials, when we use, we are giving a type of the vicarious experience, that we are not able to provide the real experience. So it is a type of the experience where the learner can have as if similar to that real experiences. Here comes the importance of cone of experience. And this cone of experience, it was put forward by Edgar Dale, and he developed he put forth this concept of cone of experience in his book the audio-visual method in teaching in the year 1946. Though it was developed years before, still now it is having its relevance. So that it is important for a teacher to include the materials or the resources, whatever selecting for the purpose of teaching, it should include the principle of cone of experience. Edgar Dale's work was most heavily influenced by John Dewey. And Dewey stressed the importance of the continuity of learning experiences from schools into the real world and argued for a greater emphasis on higher order outcomes and meaningful learning. So John Dewey's philosophy, when we look at it, we can see that always we have to connect what we learned to the real life of the world. It is an important thing that this connection has to make in any context. And then, as stated earlier, the first edition of the audio-visual methods in teaching, there we can find the concept of the cone of experience. And there we can see how Edgar Dale is indebted to John Dewey, when Dewey's concept of the continuity of learning through experience by developing the cone of experience, which relates a concrete to abstract continuum to audiovisual media options. So Dale considered this cone of experience as a visual analogy to show the progression of learning experiences from the concrete to the abstract. So what is important here is that the cone of experience, why it is known as a cone? Because it is a shape which resembles to the cone. So the pyramidical shape of the cone of experience, where we can see that it is related with the shape of the cone. And then when we look at Bruner's idea of learning, there Bruner is stating upon the 3 stages of learning. What are they? They are the inactive stage, the iconic stage, and the symbolic stage. What is happening in this inactive stage? So the importance is giving for learning by doing, and in the iconic stage, that is learning through observation, and the symbolic experience, that is learning through abstraction, that is the symbolic stage. So we can see the 3 stages put forward by Bruner, where it is related with this cone of experience. We can see that Dale is also emphasizing these 3 stages where Bruner is highlighting, and we can see how it can be accommodated. When we look at the integration of Bruner's 3 modes of learning into the cone, there we can see that at the bottom of the pyramid, there is direct purposeful experiences and contrived experiences. Then comes the dramatized experiences, then the demonstrations, study trip, exhibits, educational television, followed by motion pictures, followed by recordings, radio and still pictures, followed by visual symbols, and followed by verbal symbols. Let's have a discussion on this cone of experience and how Bruner has integrated into it. And at the bottom, as I already stated, there is the direct purposeful experiences. And this direct purposeful experiences, contrived experiences and dramatized experiences, it can be linked to the direct purposeful experience, that is learning by doing, that was put forward by the iconic stage, that was put for the inactive stage, which was put forward by Bruner. And then from the demonstrations up to recordings and radio, there is the iconic experiences, that is learning through observation, and the visual symbols and verbal symbols comes under the learning through abstraction, that is the symbolic experiences. So here we can see how the integration of Bruner's 3 stages is happening on the cone of experiences. Before going further, it's better to have a detailed discussion on the cone of experiences and how it is represented in today's literature. When we go through the different literature or when we browse the internet, we can see the different shapes of cone of experiences, where all the shapes are not giving the real sense of the cone of experiences. There are the misinterpreted version of the cone of experiences also. So that we can say that in some cases, there are the perverted version of the cone of experiences. What is this? The first thing is that the term cone of experience is sometimes misunderstood as the learning pyramid, the cone of learning, or remembering cone. But it is not like that. It is the cone of experiences. Experiences of what? It is the experiences of learning that takes place in the classroom through different mediums or using different resources and media. So here at the bottom, what we can see is the direct purposeful experiences, and where we know that there includes the lot of senses that we want to make use of in order to understand that experiences. Let's see what is important in this cone of experience is the number of senses that we used in understanding a particular concept through different audio-visual methods, and the level of abstraction that is going on from the concrete to the abstract. So what is important here is the number of senses that we used in acquiring or in understanding a particular concept through the use of different medias. And here in some cases we can see that there are figures which shows that the 10% of what they read, 10% of information only can be retained what a learner read, 20% of what they hear, 30% of what they see, 50% of what they hear and see, 70% of what they say and write, and 90% of what they do. So here what is important is not the percentage. So the second misinterpretation of the cone of experiences is in terms of connecting it with the number or the percentage. It is not correct. So it is related with the learning process. It is not related with the cone of experiences. So the number or the percentage is not important in the cone of experience. So what is important is that it is a visual analogy in order to explain how the learning experiences is progressing from the concrete to the abstract level. So what is important when we look at the stages of education, that is at the foundational, the preparatory, foundational, the middle and the secondary stages, what we can see is that from the concrete level, and when we come to the secondary stage, the more abstract concepts that we are teaching, that is important. So here at the lower level, that is at the concrete stage, what is important? That learning by doing, that the learners has to use more senses. We know that normally we use 5 senses for acquiring the information, and for acquiring this information, these 5 senses, how we can utilize these 5 senses through the use of the audio-visual materials. That is emphasizing in the cone of experiences. So we can state that it is a visual analogy which shows the progress of the learning experiences, or it is a continuum of learning experiences from the concrete to the abstract level. So here the direct purposeful experiences, that going to a field trip, to a field to understand how sowing is taking place, it's a direct purposeful experiences. When this is not possible, we come to the contrived experiences, that it is a simulation of the real life experiences. There we can see we may use the models and everything, or the mock-ups or the specimens, in order to show the real objects, the replication of the real object. So here the replica of the real objects is seen through these contrived experiences. Then comes the dramatized experiences, where the abstract concepts like nationalism or Indian national movement, when we want to enact in front of the learners through a dramatic experiences, they will get the eye sense and then the hear sense, and they can understand what is happening at that time through these dramatized experiences. Then the study trips, that is very much important, that going to a museum or then archaeological institutions where the specimens are kept there, through that also some kind of experiences the learners are getting. Then the exhibitions, and the educational television and motion pictures sometimes can be combined together, where there through the eyesight and the hearing sight they are gaining more of the experiences. Then recordings, radio and still pictures will be there. At the highest level, we know that we cannot use all concrete experiences at the highest stage, that is the secondary stage. There we have to use the verbal explanations, the symbols, the signs and everything. So that is important when we come at the higher level. So in order to gain the higher order thinking process, these verbal explanations are important and the signs and symbols are important. That is important in the cone of experiences. So what is the real picture of the cone of experiences is reflected on the screen, that we can see that there are the different stages, which shows that while attaining the one stage to the other, the concreteness is reducing. When it comes to the highest level, we can see the most abstract thing is coming. So here in this, what is important is, it looks like a visual analogy where there is a continuum between the one audiovisual material to the other, so that the learning experiences is progressing from the concrete to the abstract. So at the abstract level, we can see that the learner's higher order thinking skills are utilizing to attain the concept of abstract things. This is very much important when we come at the secondary stages. Through the verbal explanations and through the signs and symbols, how can we teach some abstract concepts? So for that, a mental image in the minds of the learners can be developed, which is more important while we are using this cone of experiences. And regarding the perverted cone of experiences, as I have stated, that the first thing regarding the concept of the cone of experiences, sometimes misunderstand it as the learning pyramid or the cone of learning. But the two are different, where in the learning pyramid we can see the percentage and the number, whereas in the cone of experience it is not related with the number of percentage. It is a visual analogy only, where we can see the different audio-visual materials that can be used. And the second perverted thing is that the importance given to the number and percentage. It is not the number and percentage is important. It is only the selection of the audio-visual materials which is relevant in a particular context, and as the age appropriate of the learners, we have to select the audio-visual materials. And in this 21st century, as we are standing on this digital world, what is important is the multimedia cone of abstraction. which is very much important in this context. So how this multimedia cone of abstraction can be depicted? On the screen we can see that at the bottom we can see the virtual reality, then comes the video, then comes the image, then comes the non-verbal audio, then the narration, text and symbol. So here, from the least abstract to the more abstract, how the concepts are continuing or it is progressing upon. What is happening in the virtual reality? There they will get more concrete experiences through the virtual reality, and through video they will get more concrete experiences. The image there where they can see the pictures, and the non-verbal audio they can hear only, where the number of senses using is less, and the narration where the verbal narration is taking place, then the text where the printed text is using, then comes the symbol where the abstract concepts can be taught through symbols. So what is important in this multimedia cone of abstraction? So when we use it in the online platform, which is most important is the virtual reality. And then for teaching for the higher education level, we can use the text and the symbol so that the learners have an opportunity to think over the abstract concepts. And here the next item, that is the benefits of cone of experience. What is important here is to facilitate effective and meaningful learning, then use a variety of materials and mediums to maximize learner experiences, then help the learners to think about the sensory impact of our learning content. So what are the benefits that we can see is here, that facilitating the meaningful learning of concepts. How can we facilitate? As stated earlier, the important is the number of senses that we use to understand a particular concept. Then number 2, use a variety of materials and mediums to maximize learner experiences. To teach a particular concept, how much audio-visual materials we are taking, that is important. And then we have to think about the sensory impact of our learning content. We can teach a content through the verbal explanation, but when we start to teach a particular content using different audio-visual materials, that is more important, and it gives more lasting impact in the minds of the learners. So that is an important thing, that when we look at the cone of experience, the figure also, we can see that how the different types of cone of experiences are giving the real sense in the minds of the learners. And the number of senses that we can use while teaching a particular concept, that is also important. So here what we can conclude is that the cone of experience, it is meant for, it can be related with the content, that how do we teach in a classroom. So teaching a particular concept, what type of audio visual materials we are selecting, that is an important thing. And number of senses that we are using, that is also an important thing. So this cone of experience, we should not go to the misinterpreted version of the cone of experiences. It is important that the cone of experiences should be linked to a particular concept where we can select the appropriate audio-visual materials. Thank you for your patient listening. Thank you.
Hello viewers and learners of the Postgraduate Diploma in Environmental and Occupational Health and Master of Arts in Environmental and Occupational Health. Welcome to this session. Today we will discuss on the topic droughts. This forms a part of the course MEV 002 Environmental and Occupational Hazards. Along with me, we have in our studio with us Professor R. Bhaskar. Welcome to the studio. From the School of Sciences and the discipline of Geology. Now, since 1900, more than 11 million people have suffered and have died and have been affected by the droughts. So droughts can have drastic and long-term effects on the vegetation, on the ecology of a region. They can have environmental impacts on the human health, and it can also lead to famine. Now, these are the second costliest extreme events after the hurricanes. Unlike other extreme events, like for example, they could be the tornadoes or the thunderstorms or even the hurricanes, but it is very difficult to pinpoint the exact start of a drought and when it is actually ended. So the longer the drought lasts, the greater will be the impacts on the people and also on the environment. To learn more about the droughts, Professor Bhaskar, can you explain to our viewers the definition of a drought?
If you ask definition of drought, that means there is for a certain period of time, there is less precipitation than the average. When this keeps on occurring, it results in drought. Drought is an hazard which is a slow kind of hazard. It's a slow onset hazard, and this is not a rapid one like earthquake or tsunami, and it can occur for months or years together. As Dr. Sushmita mentioned, we really don't know exactly when it starts, and in real sense, we don't know when it ends. What we see is that the rainfall keeps on decreasing. There are different stages of drought, and there are several causes. Of course, these are natural phenomena also, but human activities can also accelerate the impacts of the droughts. When does drought occur? The definition is when there is a noticeable deficit in water supply or rains for extended periods, a drought occurs. This extended period may be days, may be weeks, may be months. In some cases, it can be decades. We have had history in which for more than a decade, there was drought. If you see in parts of Africa, you had the drought and there was mass migration, starvation, cattle dying, all these things. Of course, these are accelerated by even the war-like conditions, and this also results in disturbance in the society. We lost around 680,000 lives in Africa because of the droughts in 83 and 84. So you can see how much death is there. As Dr. Sushmita mentioned, this is the second kind of hazard in terms of the economic loss. And let me tell you, learners, that this droughts is going to affect the achieving of all the sustainable development goals, because the bedrock of sustainable development goals is to remove poverty. And droughts affect the agriculture, and this affects the food security. So we will be derailed in all the achieving sustainable development goals if we do not take care. Now, the second aspect you should know is that since 2000, 29% there has been increase in the amount of droughts compared to the past 2 decades. Already 2.3 billion people do not have access to water. If you see the UNICEF report, by 2040, 1 in 4 child will be having water stress. So what you can see is that drought is not a simple mechanism of just drying up. Also, what you are seeing is that this will cause loss to the environment, and sometimes you can have this zoonotic diseases, pathogens which can cross once the barriers are broken, because environment is damaged, the barriers are broken, and then you can have the spread, the jump from animal to human kind of diseases. So this is quite complex. So when do we term a region to be drought affected? A region is termed drought affected when it receives consistent below average precipitation. So we have more rain in a particular place, flood; less rain, it can be drought. It can be normal compared to the average statistics, or it can be below normal or scanty. So these are the classifications which are given. There are several stages of drought. The droughts are divided into 3 critical stages before their ultimate manifestation. Now the first one is the meteorological drought. Now this is because the precipitation is less in a given area, and this precedes all kind of drought. Now this, if you understand the water cycle, if you understand the connections between hydrosphere, atmosphere, biosphere and lithosphere, what you will see when the rainfall is less, obviously you will see the soil moisture will be less, obviously you will see the water accumulating in the reservoirs will be less, and this is a chain of events. So the first one is the meteorological drought, the second one is the agricultural drought. Now what is agricultural drought? Crop production is affected. Why this occurs? Because there is no water, the soil moisture gets dried up, and water is so much less that plants cannot survive and livestock cannot survive. So this results in agricultural drought. The next stage is the hydrological drought. Now that means the water in the reservoirs, lakes and other areas are below the statistical averages. Now why does this occur? This occurs because consistently the rainfall keeps on decreasing. Alternatively, it can be a question of supply and demand. If we keep on taking more water than the rainfall, it is replenished, then you can have the droughts. There are other 2 kinds of droughts also which are mentioned in the literature. One is the socio-economic drought. Socio-economic drought is again related to supply of certain items related to water scarcity. For example, in Uruguay, what happened that the energy production was dependent on the flowing stream or flowing water. So when the flowing water is not there, then the energy production stops, and this can be for fish or other activities also. This is called socio-economic drought. There is another kind of drought which is called ecological drought. Ecological drought means the drought conditions are so much that the ecosystems are stressed, and these can have multiple effects. In nature, the hydrosphere, atmosphere, biosphere,